the HHS mandate, where this all comes from, okay, is from a law that was passed by Congress a few years ago called the Affordable Care Act, okay? Also known as Obamacare. Raise your hand if you're familiar with those terms, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. Okay, cool. So this law was passed, and the head of the Department of Health and Human Services is a Catholic woman, a former governor named Kathleen Sebelius, and this is her up here, okay? So they're the ones who are most responsible for implementing this law, okay, and all the different timetables they have with it, okay? So one of the things that they determined in the law is there is a section under that employers must have insurance plans that cover preventative medical services, okay? Very, very big general term. Preventative medical services. They referred to a task force that defined what preventative medical services were. And they were things like breast examinations, cancer examinations, well baby health care. So if you have a disease or something like that, or there's the possibility that you could be sick, making sure that you can prevent any serious disease is included in preventive care. Nowhere in the law is there any mention to contraception, abortion, or sterilization. So the law that was voted on by Congress, there is no debate, nothing that came into the law about those three things, okay? Nod your head if you're very clear where we're going, okay? But Congress makes the law, right? But who enforces the law? Who carries it out? Who executes the law? Can I get a hand to... Yes, over here. Yes, what is it? The executive branch, okay? So the executive branch is responsible for enforcing the law, for carrying out, for executing it, right? I used to be a government teacher, so I'm big on understanding, the basics. So they interpreted preventative services to include things like contraception, okay? Because, let's get this straight, pregnancy is a disease, right? So we have to prevent pregnancy, right? So you got to have contraception. We'll get back to that later. They also have said that all employers must cover abortion-inducing drugs, like the morning after pill. Or there's even some drugs that are so powerful that once you know you're pregnant, even up to like several weeks, once you find out you're pregnant, you can take a pill that will induce an abortion within the body, okay? And finally, sterilization. That if you don't want to have children anymore, and you want to change God's whole way He wired you, that all employers will have to cover for your sterilization, all right? Once again, not in the actual law. The executive branch, Department of Health and Human Services, said these are part of preventative medicine. Finally, any employer who fails to comply with this mandate will result in crippling fines. I've heard the average being like $350,000 just for the first year, and it goes up, all right? So how did we get here, okay? How did we get to this point, all right? Here's the law that went through. It was signed by a very, very narrow margin of, it was just over 50% in both House and Senate. Pretty much rammed through Congress. Not a whole lot of, bipartisan work, which is always unfortunate for anyone to see. And Obama was pretty he went to the University of Notre Dame. And one of the big things that a lot of Catholics were worried about, people like us, was that we would be forced to pay for these type of things. That we would be forced to pay for even abortions, abortion-inducing drugs. So he goes to Notre Dame, and he gets an award, he received an honorary doctorate. And this is what he said to, the people at Notre Dame. So he said, okay, if this passes, we're going to draft a sensible conscience clause. So if you don't agree with these things, you shouldn't have to pay for it, okay? This is what they came up with. These are the people who are exempt from the law. This is straight from the law, okay? The mandate. You are religiously exempt from paying for these things if you're an organization that has the inculcation of religious values as its purpose. Number two, primarily employs persons who share its religious tenets, primarily serves persons who share its religious tenets, and is a nonprofit organization. Okay? So, you can only be exempt if all four of those categories apply to your organization. Okay? So, does anyone see any problems with this religious exemption, this conscience clause, that maybe might apply to us as Catholics? Anyone out there? Right there, Molly.
Like for Children's Hospital, who cannot be a nonprofit organization due to the things they have to do and they have to pay people to do stuff, they cannot do that because they don't get all for the qualifications.
Well, Children's Hospital is not a religious organization, is it? Bethesda?
No, the people who actually work Bethesda.
Oh, right, like the actual doctors?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that would create a problem for the people working in it. What else? Who sees another problem here?
Yeah.
Back here.
Yeah. I mean, the church doesn't just necessarily serve just those who share religious tenets. We serve all people.
Right.
And we're also we're a for-profit organization.
Yeah, so number 3, Katie, that's probably the biggest one, primarily serves persons who share its religious tenets. Now, a poor person comes to IHM, all right, and they say, hey, I'm hungry. I need food, okay? If this passes, if this actually stays legit, all right, and we don't want to get fined oodles of dollars, we're going to say, are you Catholic? Do you share all the religious tenets of the Catholic faith? I can't feed you unless you convert. You know, like, what's wrong with that, you know? What else? Anyone see any other problems here? Sue?
The hospital systems, most of the hospital systems in our country were founded in the Catholic Church, and most of them employ people who are of all faiths. They are nonprofit,
Right.
but they all have Muslims, Buddhists, all faiths who come and are employed in different jobs and food services and that sort of thing. So this is really to the core of the healthcare system of the entire country.
Right. And we have, we have non-Catholics that we employ in our schools, here at IHM, you know, Protestant brothers and sisters who don't necessarily share every tenet of the Catholic faith. So we don't employ people. Not everyone here who is employed, you know, upholds our religious beliefs, but they love what they do. That's why they're part of our church, okay? So by this definition, we would not apply as a religious exemption, okay? Nod your head if you're with me. See where this is going. Cool. Okay. So what are the consequences? What could happen if things aren't changed, okay? Cardinal Francis George wrote an article saying all Catholic hospitals will close if things aren't changed. And that was the title of the article. It was like, all Catholic hospitals will close, all right? So, like Sue said, our hospitals don't employ Catholic people. We don't serve Catholic people. We'll have to, it's either like lose your Catholic identity or close down. And the Catholic Church, after the government, is the largest provider of services, welfare services for people. This is Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the other American cardinal. And he's been the most vocal proponent of changing this mandate. This is what he said. To force American citizens to choose between violating their consciences and foregoing their health care is literally unconscionable. It is as much an attack on access to health care as on religious freedom. Historically, this represents a challenge and a compromise of our religious freedom. So once again, the government wants to force the Catholic Church, all employers, to pay for and fund services that we believe are intrinsically immoral. Abortion-inducing drugs kill a child in the womb. You follow me? So they want us to become complicit in that act. We're going to pay for you. It's like giving someone a gun so they can go kill themselves or kill another person. That's like the moral circumstance of what's happening. And our leaders have said, no, that is totally against our belief, our conscience. Now, of all this, of our position, which is very, very simple, okay? Don't make us do things that we believe are wrong. This is what the Obama administration has had a few objections, okay? They came out in like a big email campaign and said, well, most Catholic women already use birth control and abortion-inducing drugs and such. So if most Catholic people already do it, come on, we're not forcing anyone to, because the majority of people already do it. Can anyone see what's wrong with that objection? What do you think about that? Emily Feldkamp.
The people who are doing that, they can't represent the church because our church says that that's wrong. And just because they're doing it doesn't mean that the entire church is doing it.
Yeah, so just because a few people or even most people are doing something, they don't actually speak for the church. This is what Cardinal George said. Behavior does not determine morality. So our behavior, what we do, doesn't determine what's right or wrong. Did you know that most students in Catholic schools, the majority of students in Catholic schools, have admitted to cheating on exams? Does that make cheating all right? I don't think so. I'm not that guy, right? I would never cheat. No, because you know it's wrong, right? So if Congress were to pass a law saying it's okay to cheat on your exams, just don't get caught, would that make cheating okay? Because most people do it? No. Same thing with forcing us to pay for abortion, contraception, sterilization, okay? Awesome. Logic is good, all right? Didn't even have to throw the Bible at them. All right. Second objection from the Obama administration. They said this is not about religious freedom, guys. It's about guaranteeing access to contraception. I don't know how many news shows I've seen where they say the talking heads up there say things like, well, the Catholic Church just doesn't want women to get to contraception. The Catholic Church is totally against abortion and is forcing their viewpoint on their employees. So it's not about religious freedom. It's about women's health issues, preventative care. What's wrong with that? Elizabeth.
We're not trying to outlaw contraception. We just don't want to pay for it.
We're not trying to outlaw and stop people from doing that. We're not trying to force people what to do. We just don't want to be responsible for paying for it. Amen. So that's pretty much what it said. Contraception is already free at county health clinics and Planned Parenthood. You can go to any county health clinic, say you need contraception, and they will dose you up for free. Okay, that's paid for by already federal monies. Okay, so there already is access to contraception for free, and in case it wasn't free, it's like $7 for 3 condoms or something like that. All right. It's not a whole lot of money, you know what I mean? So why, therefore, make people pay for it who are opposed to it? It's like political suicide, right? This is my favorite, all right? I want you to think very hard about this one. The Obama administration said this has nothing to do with religious freedom because the mandate does not hinder your freedom to worship. You can go to church. You can praise God. You can baptize your children. You can do all your sacramental stuff. You know, so we're not hindering your religious freedom in any way. What's the problem with that? Oh, I think they're right. No? Yeah, Michael.
Well, they are because our beliefs say that we don't believe in that. So.
Yeah, like, guess what? Part of the stuff we do, what we believe and do, makes up our religion, our faith and our practice. Worship, freedom to worship, is about our practice. What we believe about God and what we're called to do to be good people is part of our beliefs. So here's what's going on. The First Amendment of the Constitution. Congress shall make no laws establishing a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So Congress can't say that the Church of England is the Church of America. We can't establish a religion. And also, we can't prohibit anyone's free exercise of their religion. So here's the critical question. This is at the soul of the debate. Who defines the free exercise of religion? The government or the church? The government or the church? And you know what is going on? By the fact that they actually made this mandate, they said, we define what free exercise of religion means. We define it. Well, Kathleen Sebelius, who was the person behind this mandate along with the president himself, she got grilled by a bunch of congressmen, and I got it on video for you. So let's see what they had to say.
You said, and I quote, "This decision was made after very careful consideration, including the important concerns some have raised about religious liberty. I believe the proposal strikes the appropriate balance between respecting religious freedom and increasing access to important preventive services."
Congressman, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't pretend to understand the nuances of the constitutional balancing tests.
But you would agree it's
you're talking about the preventive services.
You would agree it's a legal issue, right? I mean, we're going to wind up in this. Last time I was at the Supreme Court, I think you and I were there the same day during the oral argument. This mandate is going to wind up in the Supreme Court. To me, it is. We can talk about the politics all we want to. I want to talk about the law. I want to talk about balancing religious liberty with whatever else you think it's appropriate to balance it with, because you used the word balance. Which of those three tests is the appropriate test for us to use when considering religious liberty?
Again, Congressman, I am not going to wade into constitutional law. I'm talking about the fact that we are implementing the law that was passed by the Congress, signed by the President, which directed our department to develop a package of preventive health services for women. We have done just that with the advice of the Institute of Medicine and promulgated that rule.
Do you agree with me that government cannot force certain religious beliefs on its citizens?
Yes, sir.
And why can they not do that?
Why can government not force religious beliefs?
What's the basis of that?
The separation of church and state.
Well, the Constitution, right? The First Amendment. Can government decide which religious beliefs are acceptable and not acceptable?
No, sir.
And why can they not do that?
It's part of our Constitution.
It's a legal analysis. I mean, for me, this is not a political analysis. It is a legal analysis. So, before this rule was promulgated, did you read any of the Supreme Court cases on religious liberty?
I did not.
You can golf clap, all right? You can golf clap. All right. So, once again, did you look over the Constitution? No. Who did you rely on? She said discussions within my office, all right? It goes on further where they talk about there's a case that just happened last year. Cardinal Dolan was talking about this, where at a Lutheran church, a woman was fired. And she claimed that it's because she was a woman, all right? That's not what actually happened, but she claimed that she got fired because she was a woman, and that there's federal laws in place about labor laws, okay? And so she went to the government and said, I've been fired, for being a woman, and I'm going to, I deserve to have these labor laws on my side. The Obama administration said, yeah, you were fired, so we're going to sue the church that fired you, okay? And the church said, we're a religious institution. We can hire whatever teachers we want in our schools. You can't tell us who we can and can't have working for us for any reason. That went to the Supreme Court, and there's 9 justices on the Supreme Court. And guess what they all voted? They all voted for the religious group. So the religious group they said, this is part of our religion, who we have working in our schools for whatever reason we believe. All right? So at the end of the day, what we believe as Catholics about this mandate has nothing to do with contraception. It has everything to do with the free exercise of our religious beliefs. Because if the government tells us that we have to do things that violate our conscience in regards to contraception, abortifacients, and sterilization, what tomorrow? Actual surgical abortions? Maybe worse. In Canada, there was a pastor, a Christian pastor, who was imprisoned because he did not believe in gay marriage. A homosexual couple wanted him to marry them. He would not. And guess what? He got put in jail because Canada has a same-sex marriage law. Father Adam said, I'm scared that I could one day become a martyr for the Catholic faith, that I could become persecuted and seen as a bigot. I know. It's pretty scary. We're at a very pivotal moment right now, not just with this HHS mandate, but with this entire election. We're going to look back on this time, and 2012 is going to be a very defining time. And it's also a question of what is our identity? Am I an American Catholic, or am I a Catholic American? Am I an American Catholic or a Catholic American?